I think it would have devastated my kids
Oh,
had
yeah.
them going through all of that, the same heartache that I was going through to turn around and put them in school. So fast forward, I had been speaking on biblical parenting I started in about the year 2000. And so I'd been doing that for about 8 or 9 years. And then in 2009, I went through a very, very difficult time. And I won't go into any details, but I found out that my husband of 17 years had been living a double life. And so that was obviously, it was out of nowhere. It was extremely devastating for me
Yeah.
and my children. And I was homeschooling. And so at that point, I stepped down from public ministry and just focused on I didn't want to put my kids in school. That's the last thing they needed with everything that they were going through.
Yeah.
And so just really focused on running our family restaurant and finishing up homeschooling my kids. So stepped completely out of public ministry, took my website down just to focus
Yeah.
on my family and healing. And God was so faithful.
I remember that time, actually. I remember, like, what happened to Ginger? Like,
Where'd she
she
go?
just kinda disappeared, and then I think I read an article, or maybe I heard you on a radio show or something like that, and because it took some time for you to kinda come out and tell your story,
Hmm.
because I think there was some time, at least that I remember, where no one really knew exactly what had happened.
Hmm.
You just kind of vanished,
Right.
and so I remember hearing your testimony and what had happened and how the Lord was, just kinda redeeming that and bringing you back into, ministry again, very slowly, though,
Right. Yeah, it was like a
and
7-year sabbatical that I was not speaking and
yeah,
writing. So it
yeah,
just took it was very devastating. It just took a lot of healing and,
yeah.
so but the Lord is faithful.
He is so faithful. How has he used that then in your life and in your ministry?
I think He has made me way more sensitive to just all of the different things that people go through and to not be so quick to judge
Mhm.
and, it just obviously, He's given me a lot of compassion
Yeah,
for people that have been in similar situations with me and given me lots of opportunity. A lot of people come to me that are in that boat and
yeah,
have been through betrayal and
yeah,
adultery and divorce. And, that's just such a painful, hard thing to get through. So
yeah,
the Lord has expanded my ministry. That's certainly not primarily what I talk about. My
yeah,
passion is to encourage parents to reach the hearts of their kids.
sure.
But along the way, God brings people into my life that are really, really hurting from some of the same kind of situation that I went through. And
Yeah,
He has allowed me to show compassion and love with the
yeah,
same compassion and love that I received from Him.
yeah. One of the things that I respect most about you during that time of your life is that you really brought yourself and your children back under the authority of your dad,
Hmm.
and of your parents as an
Yes.
adult woman who'd been married for many years.
Right.
And I think that's really powerful because I think, we think, once we get married, of course, we leave and cleave to our husbands. And that's really where our authority then comes, and
Mhm,
we work as a team. But then when that completely dissolved in your world,
mhm,
you were able to go back, and I know you have a great relationship with your parents
mhm,
anyway, but
mhm.
you were able to go back kind of under their leadership,
Yep,
because it was a lot for you to handle on your
it
own.
was, it was. Yeah, I was kinda thrown into running a restaurant that,
Yeah.
I'd not been really a part of running in 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
And I also felt that it was important for my kids to have a very godly male role
Mhm.
model
Yeah.
in their lives, because my ex, he was just gone,
Yeah.
completely out of the picture, and that was devastating for all
Yeah.
of us. And so, bringing my parents actually moved in with us and lived with us for a
Oh, wow.
year, and it was such a blessing,
Yeah.
because I would like to say that I just bounced back real quick, but I didn't. I was pretty much a train wreck for about a year.
Yeah.
So about all I could do was get out of bed, homeschool my kids, do the absolute just things that were
Just
necessities.
survive.
Yeah, just survive, and that was my life for about a year. So I was so blessed, and I know some people bounce back, much faster than that. And I was in the Word every day, but I was
Yeah.
just so broken and
Yeah.
so devastated. And but it was a really sweet time with the Lord that whole year because I realized that sometimes, even though I totally knew the Lord and had a close relationship with Him, it's like I realize that sometimes He allows us to plummet to the lowest possible place
Yeah.
so that He can lift us to the highest point, which is just a very intimate, total dependency kind of relationship with Him. And so
Amen.
that is what even though I was a train wreck that year, that is definitely what I experienced was the strength of the Lord to keep me going and to bring about healing in my life. And yeah, and He used my parents tremendously
Yeah.
to help with that. I'm so blessed to have them.
And one of the things that I was thinking through as we were tying up Monday's conversation is, for several months, or well, actually, probably for a couple of years after um, things just kind of fell apart with your marriage, you had to homeschool as a single parent.
Mhm.
And I know that oftentimes today, when parents come through a trial, when they go through something that really, really is difficult and they don't know what else to do, they are tempted to just put their kids in school or back in school if they've been in school previously. Like they just think that's just one of the things I can't do. I can't possibly homeschool my kids, especially if they have to go back to work or, just um, figure out how to pick up all the pieces of their
Mhm.
lives.
Mhm.
So, what made you said that it was important to you that you continue to homeschool your kids.
Mhm.
What made you stick to that commitment and how did you get through that time?
It was difficult. I mentioned in our episode yesterday that my parents moved in with us, so I did have their support, but I did have a lot on me. After the divorce and my husband left, I was thrown into running businesses that I really didn't know how to run. So I did have a lot on me and was completely overwhelmed. And then you add the heartbreak and the devastation
Yeah,
in with that. But I never even considered putting my kids in school for several reasons. One, they loved homeschooling. They loved being home. They never wanted to go to school. It was just that's just who we were as a family.
yeah,
I did find that I had to cut back on some of the schoolwork that we were doing because I just couldn't do all of it, and
right,
that was okay. It was more important that we stay together, that we get through all of that together, that the Lord bring healing in our hearts. And so we did less school than we normally did, and that was okay. And my kids also learned to, because I did have a lot of other responsibilities all of a sudden. And so they learned to do a lot of schoolwork on their own. I mean, obviously, I did their lesson plans for them, but they were able, because they had been homeschooled and they had learned how to study and to do things on their own, they were able to take those lesson plans and do what the absolute things that were necessary for them to do.
right.
And I would say that's what we did for about a year. We did the bare minimum.
Yeah,
And that's just what we had to do, but we got through it and God was faithful. And I'm glad that I kept them with me so that we could all heal and get through it together. And they both graduated from college. So, that just goes to show you that sometimes, if we need to take a season
yeah,
and slow down from doing so much schoolwork, that is okay. Schoolwork is not the most important thing in the world.
right.
And so, our relationship with Christ, our relationship with our family, getting through hard times together as a family, that was just way more important to me. I think it would have devastated my kids
Oh,
had
yeah,
them going through all of that, the same heartache that I was going through, to turn around and put them in school to where they're not with me 8 hours a day and they're under the authority of people that they don't really know. And so keeping them in the home with me, and like I said, my parents lived with us for a year, and that was a blessing. That the Lord really used all of that to contribute to our healing, staying together.
that's amazing. He is so faithful.